World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Where else to start? This is one of the tracks that you can look at and put anywhere on a calendar and say, this makes sense. This is a track which you can put any car around and say, this makes sense. This is everything that you want. It's got high-speed sections into sharp braking zones. It's got itself a tight and twisty section. It's got itself some incredible corners, and almost each and every one has been labelled at some point in time as legendary around such a legendary track. It's the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps here for your AMD GT4 Series with us here at World Pro Racing. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the conversation. My name's Jake Sperry. Joined alongside me is Kieran McGinley here for all of the action that we've got coming up here today. And Kieran, the real important point of contention is going to be getting off to a strong and solid start in this series. It's 5 weeks worth of racing action. It will be 2 weeks each time as we jostle our way forward and look for strong results up and down from a lot of drivers. But how do you put yourself in the best possible position early on a championship as short and succinct as this?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. And yes, of course, getting a great start means sort of winning the races. 35 points on offer to the winner of these races coming up. And of course, having them every fortnight gives the drivers an opportunity to unwind, have a proper debrief before coming back to the next round. And some really, really good circuits taking us on a trip around Europe and across the globe, in fact, as well, in these GT4 cars. Not normally something we have seen here, but we're getting more and more into it as we go through. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. A variety of cars to choose from, and as we saw in a practice session, one Ginetta around this legendary circuit. And Jake, I can't really think of a better place to start racing than the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit, located pretty much in the heart of the Ardennes forest. The weather is just as unpredictable as the racing.
Certainly is. Of course, this track pretty much on the side of the road of the legendary cycling race Liège, Bastogne-Liège, and a track, of course, which has seen so many of its own amazing racing going on forward, all the way back from the likes of the Master Kink, for example, which was a real challenge back in the day, to a place where safety reform became very key to the element of development that went through in the era of Sir Jackie Stewart, and now to today, where you could argue that the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is probably the greatest all-round circuit that you could ever find. It suits every kind of racing out there on its platform, and really you cannot argue for a better platform than that to start a championship. But the drivers here today, they're going to be looking to get themselves into practice. But Kieran, on top of that, we're not just racing for the sake of fun, although a lot of series out there do have that ability. There are prizes in store here from AMD.
Oh, absolutely, and they almost make me jealous. I wish I could be racing, because the top three have an opportunity here to win some AMD Ryzen processors, with 4th, 5th and 6th place in the standings getting goodie bags as provided by AMD. So a really good opportunity here to get some really nice prizes under your belt. And yeah, these drivers have that opportunity right about now, as we see just the picture of the practice session going on. It's just about started here, as we see Luke Whitehead making his way on towards Les Combes and Malmedy for one of the very first times. And these GT4 cars, what they lack in size, they lack in absolute brilliant raceability. These cars can be chucked around. Yeah, there's a little bit of understeer involved, especially at the front end, but at a track like Spa, as Jake said earlier, if you throw any car at this track, it just feels right.
It really does, and we take a little look here at the number 2 machine of Luke Whitehead out here at the moment in practice, and what you understand about just how important the battling is going to be here today in these GT4 machines is that they are very much going to be about keeping yourself level and within a range to go out there and attack. One of the keys of having a vehicle which is a little bit more underpowered in comparison to a GT3 here today is going to be looking at how the pace is all going to sort itself out. And we see it already when it comes to the practice times. Ashtois Racing, 1, 2, 3, all within a tenth in 3 different vehicles.
Yeah, and that's always the way then, isn't it, with Ashtois? Whatever car they're racing in, they always find the pace out there. And Mallet, who I was speaking to Jake as we were watching on this practice session, I thought, maybe a Jeanette around here at a track that really does prioritise these high speeds. Well, he's only, less than a tenth of a second away from Luke Whitehead. So it's amazing what these cars can do once they get out there. We've also got Saristo in the Alpine. I think one of the only Alpines on the grid so far that we've seen. But of course, once they've chosen a car, Jake, that's their car for the entire series. So maybe the likes of Mallet and the likes of Saristo are looking ahead at the rest of the calendar and thinking, maybe there might be tracks I might have to sacrifice. This may be one of them.
They certainly are thinking about that calendar, and that calendar is going to be incredibly important to work out, because 2 weeks from now it will be Oulton Park, 3rd round of the championship, 10th of June. That'll be over in South Africa, Kyalami, and then it follows 2 European rounds to finish off the season. You head to Misano, and then you have the Nürburgring to finish everything off. So 5 races in the championship. Work certainly there to be done at this point in time, and how is everybody going to be finding that one result that they very much need? And of course, for you at home who are looking for the results that you need, be it on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitch, maybe you are watching this with ESTV, the Esports Television Network, or TVM Sport, for example, or maybe even Motorsport.tv. Your chance to get yourself into the action is with worldproracing.com. Head over to worldproracing.com/events for all of the opportunities on and available. Now, here is Harry Spears, then, who is in the number 285, and that is a very pale, I would say, Aston Martin, making its way down the hill over towards Double Gauche, of course, the former Pouon corner, that double apex left. And really, these practice laps, we're going to see maybe a couple drivers keeping something back in reserve, but you can see just how technical these GT4s are. For example, you don't have you do have a rear view mirror, but you don't have to look that far, and it almost feels trivial in some respects when you've got a rear camera.
Yeah, and obviously with a track like this, you need to be making sure that you're hitting these apexes, and obviously making sure that you keep the car on the island. That's going to be one of the most important things. Around Spa-Francorchamps, it is unforgiving. Don't be fooled by the distance between yourself and the walls out there, as Harry Spears has to abandon his lap time, running slightly wide on the exit of Stavelot there, and possibly invalidating that run. Either that, or he's just not happy with that whatsoever. It's a deceivingly open racetrack, or sorry, a deceivingly closed racetrack, because just like here on the run down the start finish straight, you've got those walls perilously close, going into one of the most perilous corner combinations in motorsport, going through Eau Rouge and over the top of Radion. The very first time the drivers will be met with that in the race, they might be on slightly colder tyres, they'll be definitely on colder brakes, so making sure you negotiate that first chicane and making it through is going to be at the top of your priorities. A bad run through Eau Rouge and through Radion really compromises your run down the Kemmel Straight, coming up towards Les Corbes and Malmedy. So momentum is a really important thing, especially in cars. You can't afford to lose too much momentum in.
And this is one of the things as well around this circuit. It is one of the few circuits out there which is an FIA grade Category 1, which means it can hold all styles of racing, but it also goes against a couple of the measures that are out there for what you need to build out on circuit for an FIA Grade 1 circuit. For example, the start-finish line around this circuit is actually a few meters too short to be considered a start-finish line, but we'll gloss over it. The track length, for example, is slightly over the minimum distance by, I believe, 4 meters. So that's going to be something that's also a little bit glossed over. And then you look at Eau Rouge and Radion as a section of track. You cannot move those barriers any further back without some serious land clearing effort. And this is what you can see around this track time and again. It looks like you've chiseled this track into rock.
Absolutely, and it is really just as you say that, Jake. It's a circuit that is heralded by history. It's a circuit that's heralded by heritage. Making sure that this track can stay on every single calendar it can come across, just so we can go racing here, is absolutely fantastic. As you rightfully said, it's 4 meters and 7 kilometers this track, as we see then Dean Vella making his way on towards the chicane, and just before the short run towards La Source. Of course, we're using the GT layout, which means we use the old pit lane complex going through Eau Rouge and Radion, and of course the drivers will have to make one mandatory stop, with the tyre change being the mandatory stop. It's going to be a little bit hairy exiting out onto the Kemmel Straight, as we've seen time and time again. And only very recently, we're talking around about 2007, was that pit lane exit actually adjusted so that you took a wider line really out of the way of Eau Rouge and Radion. There's still, you run the risk that a car might just lose control over the top of Radion. You've got no chance if that happens.
Absolutely, and we also need to talk about the fact that this is going to be probably one of, if not the longest pit lane that you will find, because you have to traverse the Grand Prix pits on the Grand Prix front stretch, and then you've got to make that progress all the way through. As hello, that was a little bit wide going through that final section, and that'll be another thing drivers will be looking at. Don't lock up too much at the final corner or you're in trouble. Luke Whitehead then making his progress towards that final corner out there on track, it seems, of La Source at this moment in time. So making that charge up the hill towards that start-finish line. Of course, you've got those, I would say, Hinkelstein-like elements then to get towards the end. And of course, the lap has already started. So what you will note as they go out through is that pit exit here today is going to be incredibly long. Most likely we're going to be starting up near Eau Rouge and Radion, but the start-finish line itself here today, right now, will be on that front stretch, which will be very much a big key to the way that this racing is going to be going, because of the fact that they will effectively have a little bit less for their start to deal with as they go through.
Yeah, it's almost a weird one, isn't it? How the race starts and how it finishes. It's a very, very weird one indeed. But we like weird. That's why we're going racing here. Riding on board then with Luke Whitehead as he makes his way now down in towards Brussels, in towards this long right-hander, downhill as you're trying to slow the car down, and downhill as you apply the power. Really challenging corner as we then make our way through in towards the left-hander just after. Now on towards double gauche. Trying to get the power up, build up the revs then. Staying in fifth, of course, as you just shave off a little bit of speed. So much understeer can come all the way through double gauche then. You've got to just be patient and wait for the power, wait for the grip, wait for the bite of the car before you can really put the power down. In towards Les Fonds then, in towards the right-left. You can see the car wanting to twitch on Luke Whitehead, again going over the curbs, just trying to keep that control. On towards the right-hander of Campus then. Trying to slow the car down into fourth, grab the apex, just get a little bit of curb on the left-hand side there. You can see drivers will be using that to try and open up Stavelot here and try and carry as much speed as they can through Corbra Paul Frere. And and it's just all about making sure you keep that right foot planted down on the furthest right hand side pedal as we head towards this legendary corner of Blanchimont there. Little lift in these GT4 cars as there's just not enough aerodynamic grip to keep these cars planted through there as we now make our way in towards the chicane then. Heavy braking and making our way through in towards these final couple of corners on then towards the very, very short run to the start finish line, and that will be a lap then of the Spa-Francorchamps, and Luke Whitehead ends that lap on top of the timings in this practice session.
Exactly, these Ashtois drivers have all been jumping up and pushing the barriers. We saw Hamada Akizi move up then to provisional fastest in the practice session, but ultimately that's going away. 2 minutes now left in this practice, so not long left in terms of trying to figure things out, but there was a very interesting point, and it still is right now. There are, at this moment in time, 6 different manufacturers right now inside the top 8.
That's it's huge, isn't it? It just shows you that these GT4 cars are really built to go racing. The balance of performance does its job here in GT4, and obviously it's a huge challenge to make sure that these cars are as balanced as they possibly can be. There are going to be little discrepancies here and there, but on the whole it just makes for some fantastic, exciting racing. Here comes Akizi then in towards the chicane, then on towards the short run to the start finish line. Just over 80 seconds left of this practice session before we head in towards qualifying. Hamada Akizi meanwhile set to lap time, didn't quite get the fastest lap time here as we see Van der Velde then. Now he had a good old time a couple of weeks ago in the Mega Sprint Tuesdays. He is now currently 5th fastest in this practice session. He did have a good time in the practice session. We finished up 2nd fastest when we raced at Silverstone. Currently 5th fastest. Don't rule him out. He's a very quick driver.
Absolutely is. There are a lot of incredibly quick drivers here today who are looking for a good result in this GT4 championship, and they know that the only way that they can get themselves a good championship run is a good start to the racing action that we have. In terms of the point structure, it's 35 points for a race win, 30 for second, 26 for third, and it's 23 and then 21 points for 5th place, and it is 1 point down for every position after that, down to 25 points, or 25th position for 1 point overall out there. As we take a look at Jan-Nicolas Erbrich there in the DJ Racing McLaren, making his charge up through Curve de Paul Frere and over towards Blanchimont corner. But really here, as Van der Velde has actually gone second with his time as he's across the line, so he's done really well. Really what we can say, Kieran, is that this is going to be a championship points haul where it's going to really prioritise top 5 finishing.
It really is. You see those points are heavily favoured in the higher positions, in the pointy end of the field, and the top 25 are the drivers that will score points, with 25th place scoring that lone 1 point. And there's no bonus points on top of that. There's no consistency bonus. There's no most laps led. There's no pole position bonus. Every single point you can score in this series will be where you finish after an hour's worth of racing. So it is imperative that you make sure that you get to the line in the best way possible. Hamada Akizi then in the 404 Ashtar racing car in the leading Porsche at the moment, making his way in now through Blanchimont. This flying left-hander, which again they have to lift going through there. There's just not quite enough grip of those cars to keep it planted all the way through. In towards the chicane then, heavy braking, one of the slowest sections on this track, of course, if you don't count La Source, as it's a very, very tight left-hander you've got to negotiate at the second part of the chicane. On the run now towards the start-finish line for Hamada Akizi. He will end that practice session in 3rd fastest, with a field that looks like at the pointy end 6,000ths of a second separating our 2 fastest drivers, 200ths of a second separating our top 3.
I believe I've blinked about 3 times, and every time I've tried to blink, I haven't been able to blink within 6,000ths of a second. So that tells you all you need to know about just how close it is up at the very top. And of course, practice, there's no real bragging rights for putting practice. That says I am the form setter as they move towards qualifying, which will be the big important key. We know that you can't guarantee yourself a victory from pole position, but my goodness, do you make it easier for yourself. But this will be a strategy 1 game here today as we take a look at drivers out there then on their representative flying laps, Kieran, and one of the things they'll be looking at is track position. Long track, yes, you've got a lot of room to work with then as you put those times in, but we've got 27 drivers here today, and 27 of anything around anywhere is going to cause a few problems.
Yeah, 27 drivers and only 15 minutes of qualifying around a track that takes more than 2 minutes to set your flying lap, let alone your out lap. So you haven't got many opportunities to set your flying lap. Give yourself plenty of space out there. Doesn't sound as easy across a 7-kilometer circuit as it does when you put it in words. But these drivers have to find it out there. They have to find that pace. They have to find their own space out on track. And they have only roughly 2 chances, possibly 3 if you're one of the first out there and you keep putting in those lap times to actually set your fastest lap. Should be a pretty interesting session.
Definitely should be, and we'll keep an eye out on that then. The longer that all of this goes on forward, Luke Whitehead will be searching for a good time and is coming into this event, you would say, on the run of form that he has been having as of recent here with World Pro Racing, should be arriving as potentially favourite.
You would say so, wouldn't you? That's it. That would be a little bit of an understatement when the Astral Racing cars locked out the top 3 positions. Let's remember that is practice, though. As you rightfully said there, Jake, it's a form setter, not where you're going to be in qualifying. Don't take that at face value, as Luke Whitehead will be the first driver to start their qualifying lap here at Spa-Francorchamps, braking hard, then so close to the curb and the grass on the left-hand side, I should say, which can really hamper your lap time, really hamper your braking distance going into the first corner. Then we go down the hill as we approach Eau Rouge and Radion. Then you can just see how steep it is just as you descend towards that first real chance. Then lots of understeer going through towards the second part of Radion there as you desperately try and cling on for grip. Down the Kemmel Straight we go, foot planted hard on the floor on that right hand side pedal as you prepare yourself now for the braking zone in towards Lake Arm, looking for your braking point on the left hand side, braking just before the curbing starts on the left. Through Lake Arm we go, trying to dance the car through here as you then head in towards Malmedy. Then very patient on the throttle here, as you see you have to fight the car then with the setup we've got on. Down the hill we go then towards Bruxelles. And again, braking. Downhill we go. Try and find the apex. It's a long corner, this one. You've got to be very patient about when to apply the power. Apply it too early and you'll understeer off the road. In towards then this left-hander of X corner before we get ourselves now on towards the run, towards the double gauche. And again, you'll have to lift off here, staying in 5th gear. Is there a possibility to drop to 4th? Not this time around, but you see how much that Luke Whitehead has to wait, has to hold off the throttle before the grip comes to him as he now makes his way up towards Le Fagnes.
Yeah, and this Fagnes chicane here, the right followed by the left. You always look to try and carry as much as you can. 4th gear through this section and not flicking down into 3rd. He was in the low revs throughout the entirety of that section. It would have also put a bit more understeer in the vehicle as he got that Audi through and out of the campus corner into Stavelot. Of course, Stavelot, the town which is all the way down the road there behind that corner as they go on through. Now that curve of Paul Frere comes all the way along towards that Blanchimont corner. You've got that small kick right, which really, small kick left that really unsettles you on entry, and now you have to take that commitment. Uses all of the track once more going through this section, right up there at the very top. Get down the gears for the final chicane, and this will be a lap then after these 2 very difficult lefts and rights to get over towards the line. Short drive over towards the line as well, and that is a 2:29.8, which will not count due to an off track out there on circuit. So Jan-Nicolas Erbrich then goes quickest to begin with, but there is Tinko van der Velde who gets up then into the top, but it's only temporarily. A drive that we haven't really been focusing on as we look at Itamar Yativ right now was Jack Noller, who of course finished 2nd in the championship in the inaugural GT3 Sprint Series.
He did indeed, so he's showing a bit of pace about him here at the circuit for Spa-Francorchamps. Great to see him back at the pointy end of the field as we see Yativ then making his way on towards this start-finish line in the number 4 Porsche. Towards the line, he will go 7th fastest, just under a second off that pole position time. Timu Polki, meanwhile, in the Supernova Racing Aston Martin, making his way out of Blanchimont and on towards this final chicane. Maybe a little bit of a toe of the driver ahead as we now make our way in towards that final chicane through this very tight left-hander. So important that you get the power down and make sure you hit the apex out of that chicane, especially the second part, as Polky then goes 5th fastest, 0.885 off of the fastest time so far, which has been taken away by the number 15 of Taha Mali.
Yeah, Mali has done a really good job with those times in the Ginetta, one of only 2 drivers here today, piloting that around and looking to try and get as much as possible out of the racing that we have got here today. So, the work then for Taha Mali is going to be holding on to that. The inaugural set time is there, but you don't actually have that long to put times in on the board. It is a 2.5-minute lap around this place in these GT4s, which means, by all intents and purposes here today, Kieran, they are not going to have many runs at this.
Yeah, it's 2.5 minutes. That's for your flying lap. That is when you're throwing everything at it. When you're on your out lap, you've got to take into account of possible traffic, trying to find yourself the space out there. You're going to have to give yourself a 3-minute buffer just for your out lap alone. And if you take that into account, that's a 5th of the entire qualifying session. You cannot afford to make too many mistakes as Mali now makes his way on through Stavelot, now through Corba, Paul Frere, as he now puts on the power, trying to just get as much speed as possible. And until he pulls over to the left-hand side to come back to the pit lane. He was on a flying lap and decides to abandon it. And the great thing is you can come back to the pit lane, get a new fresh set of tyres on, get back out there. But really, realistically, he's only got one more chance, one more flying lap, because by the time he's done his out lap, it'll be time for his flying lap and the checkered flag will not be far away.
Luke Whitehead's just gone to the top there to 2:29.283. Spears then up into 5th position with a very nice time there. He's 0.6 of a second off the pace at the moment, but there goes Hamida Akizi looking to make a charges. There is Maximilian Vadi looking to get the AMG Mercedes GT4 going through, driving for the virtual drivers team by TX3, and moves up to 11th position then with that time. Not bad at all. Some good times have been coming in on the boards, and we have been seeing once again how difficult. There is Jordan Stones for the team at this stage, making the progress then through towards the final couple of corners. I think team would be, I'm not sure what my team is.
Good question. That's for sure. But he now makes his way towards the line. Hasn't set a lap time so far. Towards the line, he will go 13th fastest then. Just under 1.5 seconds off of our provisional pole position time. And it's a really interesting session because no one driver has stayed at the top for longer than about 60 seconds. So it really is all to play for in this first qualifying session of a brand new series.
It certainly is. The most populous right now, or the 2 most populous inside the top 10, are Porsches. There are 4 of them, and there are 3 Aston Martins. So they look like they are the favourites at this stage. They make their charges. We've got 1 BMW in the field in the form of Mikhail Merchieka out there on circuit. So Mikhail is going to have a lot of work to do out there today. And of course, we've got that Alpine of Saristo. And here is someone who is normally out there, one of the characters of the field, Gershli Kunshabo there in the AMG Mercedes.
Yeah, and the gifted racing team, Mercedes, always one to try and put himself at the pointy end of the field. Great to have him along. He's normally at most of these World Pro Racing races. We love to have him here. The Hungarian always has a good sense of humour, good sense of spirit as well. And whatever happens in the race, he will normally try and see the checkered flag out. So it's great to have him as part of the World Pro Racing regular driver roster. As well as that, I believe I have seen the number 777 of Jimmy Holm in the homing missile. He is in the homing missile, hopefully the Porsche version of it. Of course, we know his lime green Ferrari that he loves to run. Here he is in the Porsche version of the homing racing car, making his way through in towards the chicane. Currently 17th fastest is one of the fan favourites, the Finnish driver, making his way out of the chicane on towards the start-finish straight. Can he make an improvement on 17th fastest? He can, goes 13th fastest, 1.2 off provisional pole.
Won't shake a stick at that. That's not bad at all. Jan-Nicholas Erbrick has moved up in the McLaren then to 6th position. So that puts a very interesting slant on things at the moment. Vadi making the charge to the line. We're down already to 4.5 minutes. And that's a move into the top 10. Going into 9th position just ahead of Speth there as Ashton Cox in the Ashtoir car is in 19th position at this moment and searching at this moment in time, hoping that there is a little more pace in the car at this point. But it is getting a little congested right now. Top 10 split within under a second at this point, so still drivers searching for more, and they can see Luke Whitehead's top of the times, and he does not have a fastest sector time in any of the sectors.
And that just shows you how consistent his setup is. It's pretty much good around the board, but that also might be a slight bit of a worry because it's not exceptional at one point of this track. So he's going to have to be careful about that. He might find himself vulnerable at certain points of this track against certain drivers. Here comes Ashton Cox then towards the line, currently on a 2:31. He did set a lap time that was faster, but it was invalidated. And it's a little bit of a curious case of Ashton Cox at the moment. Down in 19th place, he struggled a little bit with form, but we know he's a talented driver. We know how good he is. He just needs a good result behind him, and he'll be back to where he was in no time.
Absolutely, and it's all about that form. There is the GT Omega RPM esports machine of Jack Noller there in third position. There is a big gap, by the way, from fourth to fifth of about 0.3 of a second between Noller and Spears. So there is going to be a lot of work going to be going on then to try and close that down in these final laps. But Noller through towards the third sector now, coming out to the campus corner. Of course, a fantastic Institute of Engineering there on the inside of that campus corner. And now for Jack Noller, it's about power as you go on through. And it's very weird to say power in a GT4, but you still need that element of a kilometre or two, which is exacerbated a lot more because these cars are a little bit slower.
Absolutely. As what we've mentioned before, these cars are all about momentum. You have to keep your momentum up. If you lose any shred of momentum going around these corners, you will fall victim to a possible position loss. Here comes Jack Noller then coming towards the line, and the number 36 GT Omega RPM esports car goes second fastest and has time for one more flying lap. 0.09 of a second off of provisional pole.
That is a very important P2 at this stage for Jack Noller, because it does break up the Ashtoir drivers who are 1, 2 and 3 at the time, now 1, 3 and 4 at this stage, and I'm sure everyone's going to be keeping a close eye on how this one goes. Harry Spears out there in that very pale pink Aston Martin, looking to try and rock the apple cart to make it 4 different manufacturers up inside the top 4. You got Urbrick as well. It's 5 and 6 at this moment in time, and there aren't any guarantees, I would say, in the middle of the pack, because it's all looking pretty close down there as well. So you're really fighting for as many tenths and hundredths as you can get your hands on.
And this is going to be really important for the drivers out there. It also promises to be a great spectacle because at the moment the top 10 covered by 1 second. Down the order then, another second covers 18 places. So you're looking at a really close field going through. Really does promise and really does build it up to be very close racing in our race today, with less now than 60 seconds before that checkered flag comes out.
Yeah, Pulkey moving up then into 9th position in the Aston Martin, puts a third one now inside the top 10. It's Vady who gets bumped down to 10th, and now Speth is shuffled outside of the top 10 in the number 10 Porsche. So we're seeing those times starting to encroach in at this moment. Everyone's finding that little shade. Spears then making his move over through Blanchimont. He should have one more corner left in this lap, and one more lap available if he should need it. He should cross with about 10 seconds or so left on the clock. So he's got himself one more if he should need it at this stage, but the gaps are there. Whitehead has just extended out by another 0.08 of a second, and Spears has just gone to second there with a fantastic 2:29.3. Noller, though, still looking for a quick lap. It's looking quick. Out comes the checkered flag then, as they will all look to make that push towards the line. It's going to be a very close fought battle as he just runs it a bit deep through the final corner, does Noller. He will get bumped down as well by Malley, who moves up then into second position for Ashtoir. Noller will cross the line, will remain fourth. That final chicane there has really cost him. Now here's Samir Foch making that charge, the Latvian driver over towards the line, and he will take the baby McLaren Racing Team car over towards the inside. He is not going to be able to find much more. There is Hamida Urquizi, though, in the Astra Porsche, looking to try and really make that focus here and show that he's got all the pace available. He only needs to find a quarter of a second. Doesn't sound like much at all here in the final goings, but if you can make that drive, can gain that place, that's going to be where all the importance is going to be, because that race is coming up and is going to be so very vital, using all of the road available there at Blanchimont. And now on the brakes for that final chicane. Has he got it nice and neat as he goes through? Yes, he does. Through the right, through the left. How early can you put the power down on exit? Out onto the AstroTurf there on that outside. And Hamida Urquizi have to settle for 5th position still. Did improve on time, but not in place overall, and that's the key. Whitehead will not improve. Spears is out there on track, will be the last drive to keep an eye out on, but here is Tinko van der Velde searching for a little bit more. There's a jump up in front, though, which is key, because I believe that's Polke who's moved up now into 7th position with that lap. He is a full Boeing behind Luke Whitehead. He's 0.747 back at this moment in time, but Van der Velde will be looking to try and make this one work in the Sidemax Motorworks car into the final right and left. A lot of curb through that first section, not enough for the anti-cuts there, those sleeping policemen, but the charge then for Van der Velde over towards the line. It's good enough for 6th place then. He finds himself just 3.5 tenths back. That's some great work, but do not count out Spears. So aggressive on the brakes. He was pretty much pedaling like the anthill mob, trying to get that one slowed down, but as he makes that drive to the line, I believe he just about runs out of time with that. So Kieran, no surprises, Whitehead's on the front, but this is close. This is not going to be a guarantee for victories for anyone in the field.
It's absolutely not. And when you're coming into this race, you've got to have the first couple of corners buried into your mind. You have the likes of La Source, which is going to be a bottleneck at the best of times, but you've also got Eau Rouge and Radion. Terrifying on your flying lap in qualifying, but when you're trying to go through their 2-3 wide, it's going to be even more tricky. Remember, the drivers are on cold tyres. Hopefully they'll remember that too. There'll be less grip the first time around through Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's hope they keep that in the back of their minds. But what we're promised here is a top 5, really within 0.2 of a second of each other in that top 5. The rest of the top 10 covered by the rest of that second. We're in for a great battle no matter where we look up and down the field.
It's that battle which we focus on here today, of course, with World Pro Racing. If you haven't had the chance to already, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by the team here at World Pro Racing. And this, of course, is the place where sim racing becomes real. But it's the reality that they'll be focusing on now, the race which will be coming up. And Kieran, now you've got to set your mind on what is a long-haul style of race. You've got to be alert. There is a pit stop that's going to be classified in this race, and you have to be pretty much there as we take that little look here, this cinematic or panoramic view through to see where everyone is, as they are effectively all on the jacks. When they get their setup all nicely sorted, they'll be dropped down onto the circuit, and they'll be then ready and available to go when everybody is ready.
Yes. And you can already see where they're starting, going in towards Eau Rouge and Radion for the very first time. 2 wide going through there. They're started, of course. So it's going to be a very interesting complex, a very interesting first couple of corners then. Remember, the drivers will be on cold tyres, and I cannot stress that enough. There will be less grip going through there. Let's see which of them can make sure that they keep those tyres in check. Keeping out of trouble out of the first few turns of this race is going to be key. It's a long race. You can't win the race on the first lap, but you can most certainly lose it.
Yeah, we've seen it many times before in races where a big pile-up, of course, you can go all the way back to 1997, I do believe it was, with that incredible 14-car pile-up all the way down this section of road, which we're panning on back through at this stage with, I don't know if it's a very fast man running or if it's a drone that's trying to go on through at this point. So the work is there, but it is a full hour that they will have on the clock. You can see the big 1 alongside these drivers indicates that they are having to have 1 mandatory pit stop still there. And of course we are on our pace lap at this moment in time, and they all have to keep a minimum speed out there on circuit. They've got to be very alert that they're not putting themselves as too much of a nuisance, but at least for the top 4, it is 4 different manufacturers, and it really does showcase that this is not as clear-cut in terms of these vehicles as you'd think it is. The Audi, the Ginetta, the Aston Martin, the Porsche inside the top 10. We've also got the McLaren and the Mercedes as well. So 6 different manufacturers in the top 10. 8 manufacturers being represented here today. And really, Kieran, what you can say is that this is a class field and they're going to have to work hard for it.
Really, really is some really good talent out there. Luke Whitehead spearheading the movement now, going in towards the right-hander of Malmedy on their pace lap, of course. But, you know, the bets will be on him, of course. He's secured that pole position. We know how successful he's been in World Pro Racing, but we have seen before that he has been under threat. And when he's under that pressure, really anything can happen. We've got the number 15 car of Taha Malir in second place in the sole Ginetta in the entire field, and really wiping any sort of stats I had about the Ginetta and any thoughts and preconditions about the Ginetta going in towards Spa-Francorchamps, because he's put that onto the front row, and he looks like he's going to be one of the main protagonists who will have that fight against Luke Whitehead. Harry Spears and Jack Noller up at the pointy end of the field. It's great to see them back up there, especially Jack Noller. We know how successful he's been in previous series here at World Pro Racing. It's fantastic to see him onto the second row. Hamada Akizi and Tinko van der Velde, also 2 drivers to watch. Hamada Akizi needs no introduction here on a World Pro Racing stream. However, Tinko van der Velde maybe does. He's a Sidemax racer. He's had plenty of experience and plenty of pace on his side. He may be down in 6th place for now, but keep an eye on the Dutchman. He has a way of turning your eye towards his speed.
He certainly does, and we'll be keeping an eye out over the course of the racing that we've got moving forward. An entire hour to figure out where everyone needs to be. They won't have to worry too much, at least at this stage, about where they need to be on this pace lap. They're not going to be trying to take each other out. They're not going to have that level of road rage. They're just going to be keeping themselves calm, and you're seeing that right now. The ghosting properties there of Spears, who is trying to keep a lot more temperature in the tyres in comparison right now. But one of the issues that they will have up at the very front is that those Ashtois cars, they will have that ability to coordinate that start between them. Of course, they are teammates, Whitehead and Mallet, so they will be able to work on the front row, maybe keep the likes of Spears behind and Noller behind, and give Urquizy just a little bit of a heads up for where they go. They can see there from our aerial perspective. They have passed the karting track there on the inside of the circuit as well. Of course, a very, very nice and accomplished karting track. And that's what you see from some of these big circuits, is that they have a karting track that accompanies as they go through. That final chicane is also going to be very much key to keep in mind at this moment. But we welcome you to the party and the conversation. We welcome you to World Pro Racing. If you're here for the first time, watching on all of the platforms that we have available, we're going to line ourselves up then, get ourselves nice and ready and situated once more. The Aston Martin looks very, very eager to try and get through as they make that progress through the final couple corners here. That Ginetta getting a little bit swarmed as they think about where they need to be at this moment in time, and that's going to be a little bit of a cause for concern as they figure out where they need to be. And they've also got to keep an eye out on that pace, and they've kept it really slow as they go on through towards that start-finish line. But of course, they don't have to go here at this moment in time. They'll be looking to go when they round that opening corner towards then Eau Rouge and Radion. So that's going to be where the eyes will be focused on. Of course, it does stop this bottleneck here at turn 1, which we have seen many a time in many a different style of race. But Whitehead on the front, Mallet then alongside. You got Spears, Noller, Kesey, and the patience now is going to be required as they descend down the hill. Who is going to be best placed? Who is going to have everything they want? And who is going to take the opening round? Well, you've got an hour to find out because the lights are off and we are racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. They fall nicely into line then as they head up Eau Rouge and Radion for the first time. It is Whitehead in control, and they'll have to be cautious as they now make that charge. And this is Draft Central City as Spears looks to try and attack on the outside, and he has no lane on the Ginetta.
No, he doesn't. Bit of a Constantina going on at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. I think Ashton Cox is one of the car, the 158 there. Also caught up in it is Saristo as well. Meanwhile, though, battle for the lead develops as the Ginetta has to take off the track then. Was going to miss the corner. And so now that's an opportunity for Harry Spears to really ramp up the temperature there to try and put that pressure on and see what he can do, because he's already seen the Ginetta make that little bit of a mistake then. Ashton Cox all the way now down in 27th place, caught up in a first lap melee, what looked like at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. Didn't see what happened out there, but Chris Bourne also caught up in that incident at the very start. Luke Whitehead, though, leads the way and leads the field down towards Double Gauche, then in towards there for the first time. You can see the Ginetta of Mallet in second place. Harry Spears in third. Jack Noller, I believe, still is in fourth place. There's Jan-Nicolas Ebrich then, who's under pressure then from that number 24 Mercedes of Sones as we make our way now on towards Le Fagna for the very first time. And the DJ Racing car just about holding on to 7th place for now. But there is Polke right now in 9th place, right on their tail.
Yep, and then you've got Hamida Kesey here, who's got mirrors full of Van der Velde at this stage. So it's going to be a lot of fighting going on out there in these opening couple of laps. They look to try and settle themselves down into reality. We'll take a look then off of the start here with this replay. We'll take it from Ashton Cox's perspective as he goes on through. He's all up there on the power, and we've got some nice mapping there on the bottom right, and there you can see it just checks up and he gets a tap then, and someone else, another Porsche goes through, and effectively with those Hinkelstein-like options on the inside, you're going to have a big accident there. It's all going to funnel in and won't naturally flow out as much, so that's going to be a drama then. And look at that from Van der Velde down the inside. It was around the outside initially at that final chicane, but now over towards the Lassource hairpin. Will have to be the outside once again for Van der Velde if he wants to get past Hamida Kesey. It's on camber through here, but he's trying to pick up her on the exit, but you have to lift off of it slightly because there on the inside, just poking your nose, was Kesey. Itamar Yativ also in a battle down here in 18th place.
Yes, trying to defend hard then as the cars then exit La Source for the first time on the run now, down towards Eau Rouge and Radion for the second time as Yativ has the inside line going in towards Eau Rouge and up the top of Radion then, but you can see there that Mercedes is all over the back of him. Conchabo trying to find a way through with Mercheka currently taking the little bit of an escape road or escape route over Radion. Meanwhile then Conchabo has the outside line, but he might be slightly falling back. He's got Yativ right on his right hand side then as they make their way in towards Les Combes. Then the Mercedes has the outside line. Does he have the line for the next corner? He will, but Yativ will have a bit more momentum as they make their way down in towards Malmedy. He'll also have the inside line. Conchabo round the outside, keeps it all together, uses that little bit of curbing and finds the move. Mercheka now fancies his chances going in towards Bruxelles, and there you can see Conchabo just about holding on to that 18th place. Then after making that move, Yativ down to 19th place. Mercheka couldn't quite find that gap that was created in that battle.
No, definitely couldn't, and that's why these five all find themselves close, and that is Spears, who is a mile away. You've got a load of runoff there, and he used all of it and a bit more going through Double Go. She's now behind Timu Polke there in 10th position, so a massive moment that we've just missed, and there is the dramas in front, as that is Erbrick, I do believe, who will be now losing places. Jordan Sones looking to try and find a way through as well. It's suddenly all checked up behind Hamida Kesey.
It has indeed, and Sones couldn't quite find the move past then Jan-Nicolas Erbrick, but that's not going to stop him from trying. Van der Velde keeping out of trouble there as he tries to find his way up the order. But there you can see then just that rear wing, and there is Van der Velde putting the wick on to Hamada Kesey. They're going to go side by side then on towards Blanchimont, and I think Van der Velde is going to have the inside line. Kesey round the outside. He'll go off the track slightly. There's nowhere else he can go. Rejoins the circuit and on then towards the chicane. Kesey has the inside line for the first part of it, but you can see there that number 66 car of Tinko Van der Velde will now have the inside line going into the last part of the chicane. Bit of door-to-door contact, but that is Van der Velde who's got the position now up into 4th place. Kesey might try a move round the outside in towards La Source hairpin, switches back to the inside but cannot find that way through.
Not yet anyway. Dean Vella's in the middle of all of this. Oh no, there's a big pile up. 3, 4 going around there as they go through. The 6 machine in trouble as well, and they all just had that one little moment. It looked like it was going to be trouble. Simon Speth Oh, every reason to be excited. He is the big profiteer from all of this. He gained 5 places in all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Christmas and his birthdays happened just in that one corner alone for him. Now up into 4th place. What it looked like to me could have been the Dutchman getting a little bit sideways. Was there contact between Hamada Akizi and Tinko van der Velde? Well, hopefully we'll be able to find out. Meanwhile, Jan-Niklas Erbrich now going up the inside of Spet, then in through Lecom, and Jan-Niklas Erbrich up a position. Spet then really making a meal out of the second part of Lecom. Now through Malmedy, then that's Harry Spears on a charge back through the order. He takes back 5th place from Simon Speth.
There is Folk as well. The Latvian trying to find a move. One done down the inside just behind that as well. That is Van der Velde there. Tinko van der Velde getting through on Ohak, it seemed, at that stage. Or sorry, no, that would be Vadi that he's got through. So let's have a little look at this then as they went on through. So this is the first drama then, which is what puts Spears behind at this stage. A look down the inside from Jack Noller and a little bit of squeezing between the two. And a hit into the wall there to tyres. So that's a getaway there for Spears. That could have very easily have been a huge disaster at that point. But really, I'd say that the students will have a look at that, but I'm not sure what they'll gather from it.
No, Yativ then going up the inside into the first part of Lefonia, but he runs very deep and has to take a little bit of a cross-country journey to rejoin the track. That means Mercieka then will take back 17th place in the BMW, and Yativ then just about holds on to 18th place ahead of the number 69 car of Tom Otti in the Gifted Racing Team car. But they're going side by side, going through Campus and then through Stavolo then. Stavolo too wide is a very, very dicey move. It's a very brave move, that's for sure, as Yativ then loses the place to Tom Otti as they now make their run in towards Corbin Flair. There's a battle behind them as well between, I believe that's Piermit and Sones making their way through. But Yativ, meanwhile, wants this position back from Tom Otti. Will he try and find a move initially round the outside going in towards the chicane? And there's a little bit of drama up ahead as well. Couldn't quite work out who that was rejoining, but making sure they rejoin as safely as possible. And it might have just caused a little bit of a bottleneck there because Yativ now will find himself under pressure. It's actually Jimmy Holm in the treble 7 car, the homing missile, who's run into trouble as well. Let's have a look at a replay then. So this was the battle between Van der Velde and Amada Akizi going down in towards turn 1.
It certainly was. Now, let's have a look at this. So there was the one pivot to the inside, couldn't get there, and that's clumsy there from Hamada Akizi, and then suddenly they've all taken the same line. They've not been alert to it. I saw about 6 different bits of contacts they all went through, and those were the dramas that came on into view. But now all of a sudden there is Itamar Yativ, there's Jimmy Holm, there's a bit of side-by-side as now here comes the next challenge that moves on through from Piermets, and then you've got Sones as well trying to recover back through the field. We're going to go 3 wide into it, and that's not going to be good. There's contact, not once, but twice, and then into dramas goes Yativ, and Sones trying to stick his nose down there at that section of road. Very difficult, and look again then as Spets in 6th position, side by side for 7th and 8th, as Foch and Van der Velde try to go out there for position, and Van der Velde is trying to unlock everything he can on the run to Double Gauche.
Yeah, down in towards, they go in towards Double Ghost, trying to hang on, but meanwhile we've got a battle for the lead on our hands here. Both now about 5 seconds clear of 3rd place man Jack Noller, but with all the carnage behind them, it's no surprise to see them have this much of an advantage. But Mallet here putting on a show here for the lead of this race. Then Luke Whitehead currently leading this race. We haven't even passed 10 minutes in this race so far. We've seen so much drama in the opening first 10 minutes of this race as Mallet tries to find a better line, a different line to try and find his way through. Then Foch runs wide on the exit of Campus then and gifts that position wrapped up in a bow for Tinko van der Velde, who will happily take away 7th place. And now Vedi could try and find his way through that 8th place. Luke Whitehead hanging on so far in towards the chicane, but there you can see Mallet. We're going to look up the inside. These two do drive for the same team, but there are no teams in this championship. It's only every driver for themselves. So they are going to be at an arm's length, but they are going to be battling for that lead of the race, no doubt about that.
By team, we say gentleman's agreement of team at this stage, as there is David Ohak then, who is going to have to play defensive card. That's someone going well off then in the background, and I believe that's not going to be ideal at all. That's Gershly Konshabo going for an adventure, I would say, over at the final section of track. He will now drop the position here to Mika Mercieka. who moves up into 14th place, and suddenly can Otti slip away down the inside? We're seeing a lot of drivers going backwards here in the early stages, but this is another thing they'll have to be keeping their eye out on. The pit window is not open yet, so they're not allowed to come down in and make that stop. They'd still have to make another stop if they did so. Here's some side-by-side. This is the replay then of Yativ and the action then with Soames. Soames trying to stick his nose down the inside, and the issue there for him is just the fact that, you know, this is a tough bit of track that you have to try and stick it 3 wide. It's 2 wide at best when you go into Leycoombe.
Yeah, penny for Yativ's thoughts then as he was left there just stationary on the infield of Leycoombe then. But yeah, a bit clumsy then going in towards there. It's an overtaking opportunity, but you really have to use the Kemmel straight to size up the move and make the majority of the move happen before you get into the braking zone of Leycoombe. Very, very difficult to be on the brakes through Leycoombe and make the move stick, especially if you're about a car length back. Luke Whitehead then still hanging on to the lead of this race then. He is under good pressure then from Taha Mali as we make our way now in through Lefonia for this 5th time in this race. And making our way through again, Malia just maybe testing the waters a little bit here. These two will know each other. They'll know their driving styles. They'll know the setups that each driver has, that each car has. Not necessarily will that mean that one car will be faster than the other, but what it will mean is that we should have a really good battle on our hands for the lead of this race. At the moment, it's pretty tame, but I wonder how much Malia is going to put Luke Whitehead through. How much is he going to test him for this lead of the race?
That's going to be the key. Every corner in that middle sector, that was Mali really pulling the strings, but it opens up on the run through to Blanchimont then, so there's enough to cover with. It looks like the Ginetta is much better in the corners than the Audi is, so we'll keep that in mind as they go through and make that charge towards the line once again. So the work very much being put in these early stages, and I wonder how much Mali can use that as an advantage. Just sit in behind, play the strategy game, save a little bit of fuel as he goes on each lap, and then he'll have maybe a couple seconds or a second when it comes to the pit stop where he won't have to worry as much as things go on for the pitting that will be happening over the course of this race. We'll also be keeping a very close eye on the conditions here today. They are sunny at the moment and are remaining in a sunny to light cloud, I would say, over this circuit. 17 degrees air temp, 20 degrees track temps, mighty cold by virtue of that. But they also have to be alert to who's closing in behind. You can see Jack Nolla, he's only now 3.6 seconds behind Mali here in second.
Yeah, and with the two of them battling and two of them just trying to keep an eye on each other's lines, it's going to allow Jack Nolla to come back and close the gap because he's on his own out there. He can focus on his own lines, his own apexes. Doesn't have to worry about whatever's in his rear view mirror. Who does have to worry about what's in his rear view mirror is Tom Otti, as Jimmy Holm will try and go up the inside going in towards Leycoombe. Can he get that car slowed down in time? Yes, he can. So the homing missile is up a position and up to 16th place.
Easy move then for Jimmy Holm, whose car looks very, very, I would say, festive in terms of the way that the livery is designed, as he now looks to make his way down the hill through Bruchelt and try and get onto the next driver, which is Gershly Kunshabo. They're in 15th position at this moment in time. So the focus is all very much there at this point in time. Just keep yourself calm and find what you need. But Simon Speth has got to look behind him here. That Porsche sees an Aston Martin in the mirrors, and that, of course, will be Tinko van der Velde, who will be trying to get through, and that is a mistake there, going through from Speth, who just ran a little bit too wide. That opens up a real attack of opportunity, but again, using all of the road, and that comes with experience, really. After making a mistake, just taking the natural racing line, using all of the road.
you can see the power is where the Audi is favoured. As we go through these mid-speed corners, you can clearly see the Ginetta, the way it's built, the way the engine is positioned, all makes sense as it's a much better handling car.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we have seen that spec again. We're having to look back in the rearview mirrors as here comes Van der Velde up the run through Eau Rouge and Radion. And look at that, so aggressive against that curb. Moves to the outside then at Kemmel as they take the ride towards the Lecum section. It's going to be a case where that Porsche is doing just enough. Look at it go on the straight. Absolutely rapid there. Van der Velde won't know what hit him.
Absolutely. He was not expecting for Speth to start pulling away from him at the later stage of the Kemmel straight. But that's exactly what happened. But here we go then, Van der Velde right on his tail, then getting a much better run through Malmedy, now in towards Bruxelles. As you can see there, Van der Velde has the inside line. He'll take
There's Urbrick then for 4th position, and then it's about a 7-second gap up to 3rd position, and the top 3 in their race at this moment in time. It looks like every which way you go, there is a battle. There is Gershly Conchabo, who's lost out to Jimmy Holm, and down the inside, Otti trying to use all of the road, and shepherding there he very much is with the driver of Gershly Conchabo, who just about hangs it around the outside, and that Mercedes using all the grunt available for it, able to stave off, just for now, the battle is just behind. We see there, I believe that was Piametz and Polke out there having a scrap.
It was indeed. That's the battle for 19th place. Behind them as well, about 7 seconds down the road, is the battle between Yatif and Saristo over 22nd place. Of course, all those positions are for point scoring positions as well. We cut onto this battle then for 9th place. David Ohak wants to find a way past Max Vedi as we make our way through in towards Blanchimont, and once again on towards the chicane. Ohak on the right hand side, Vedi on the left, as they now find the braking zone in towards the chicane, both braking at pretty much the same distance away from the corner. Vedi will have the outside line, David Ohak has the inside line, but you would expect Vedi to be able to put the power down earlier. He does. Sheldon Muscat trying to find a way through and try and take advantage of this battle, heading our way now down towards La Source. As you can see there, David Ohak defending that inside line, heading in towards the first turn, but that is contact there down the inside. David Ohak misses his braking point. He was so focused on the rear view mirror that he forgot about the braking zone right ahead of him.
They say the best defence is a good offence, but we never expected anyone to take it that literally as he went through turn number 1. Not ideal at all, just outbroke himself trying to defend and realised, oh, there's a corner there, I still have to deal with that. Muscat did take a tap coming through that section, and that will be worth keeping in mind as he looks to try and make that charge up through. You can see he's up looking for that 6th gear, using the red lines there from the computerized system to know where he's going. 243 kilometers an hour before hitting the brakes into Lecum, and a real bit of work going on right now. Here is Tom Otti, by the way, who just loses out the place then. That's Soames making the recovery drive, moving on through up then into that 17th place. So a comfortable move then, and a comfortable overtake on top of that. This is a race where we've seen quite a few incidents early on, but we are now hitting that stage in the next minute or so where I'd say pit window is open.
Yeah, it's open for 10 minutes, so it'll be 35 minutes to go. That's the magic number we're looking for before that pit window opens. It'll be open for 10 minutes before it is shut, and you have to make a pit stop and a tyre change at that point, as Jimmy Holm is looking for a move on Dean Vella, maybe just applying that going through the double gauche. As we see then Dean Vella runs a little bit wide as they now get the run on towards the right left-hander of Leifonia, and you can see there Jimmy Holm is all over the back of Dean Vella.
Oh, no surprises. Dean Vella had a massive wiggle as he went over that AstroTurf. He had to catch the car, and it is a same class car. Well, I wouldn't say class car, I'd say it's same manufacturer. It's a Leipzig battle of Porsche versus Porsche, and Dean Vella, a lot more confidence to put the power down, sees the BMW just in front, of course, of Mika Mercieka, and it will be very much a chase as the two Maltese drivers go for it. But look at Jimmy Holm go. Homing missile, absolutely. That was absolutely beautiful, but doesn't have enough on the exit because Vella's just going to come steaming on back. trying to look for that position on the outside, and Holmes going to try and send it deep, and he's done just enough to get the move done.
Just enough, but you could see he just took slightly too much speed into Blanchimont, and all that hard work was almost undone. He moves now up into 14th place. He's had a tough start to this race, but he's coming alive now. His next target will be Mersheka right ahead of him in the number 27 BMW as we head in towards La Source for another time in this race. About a couple of laps before that pit window does open, so I wonder who the first driver will be into that pit lane, and when the timer goes down to 35 minutes and the pit window does open, who will be the first driver to take advantage of that?
It's going to be the key to how this race is going to be conducted. You've got to keep yourself in a range of the drivers in front and find clean air as well. It's a long pit lane here, so there might be advantages to pitting early here in this one as Silver Piamets. Then in the quite nice silver car, the Estonian will be side by side here with Timu Polki trying to get through. Aston versus Aston here, British Racing Pride for both drivers. They go through as the battle of, I would say, these drivers ends in Polki's favour, then Finnish driver doing a good job. And now look at Sheldon Muscat down the inside then, and that is Speth absolutely struggling out there right now. Vadi's going to get the move done. Is he around the outside trying to pick this one off? Got very dicey between them, but I'd expect Alex Leaf, who we've said nothing about all day long, to want to try and get back through as well. But Speth still holding on that inside into double gauche, and this is going to check up absolutely everyone.
It is indeed. There you can see the 302 just holding on the inside line of the 89 car of Vedi then as we make our way onwards there towards Lefonia, and Alex Leaf able to hold on. They've got David Ohak right behind them as well, who's eager to make up lost ground after his incident at La Source. However, Leaf holding on to 10th place with that charging Vedi right behind. But that is Muscat then up into what I believe will be 9th place. He's absolutely on a charge right now, up into the top 10. Unfortunately for him, it's 7.6 to the next car, but it fits Sheldon Muscat. I wouldn't rule anything out.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't either. He's the sort of driver who you effectively roll the dice and say you get something. This is a great battle going on though right now. 4th, 5th, 6th, Erbrick, Spears, Van der Velde, all of them trying to keep themselves in a very good battle here as Mercieka has eyes behind. That's Jimmy Holm in that homing missile, and he'll be looking through. Now, Mercieka has got a drive-through penalty. I wonder if that's for track limits and overextending.
It could well be, because we haven't seen anything, but Mercieka trying to come into the pit lane now, very slowly on the entrance towards the pit lane, as he then gets the power back on, and that will be to serve his drive-through penalty, because the mandatory pit window is closed at the moment.
It is, and that's going to hurt, because a drive-through penalty around this circuit is a lot heavier of a consequence than others. You can see Jan-Nicolas Erbrick then with the scraping on the front of the car. We'll have to be very, very cautious about those two Aston Martins to try and get by behind. But the good thing with the McLaren is it's normally quite good in a straight line. Normally?
You'd hedge your bets on that in a drag race, that's for sure. But Jan-Nicolas Erbrick taking full advantage of that. 4th place right now. He's got Harry Spears right behind. Behind him as well is Tinko van der Velde. Battle for 4th place well and truly on. As we're getting the first of the penalties from our stewards in Adrian Figallo and George Muscat.
Yep, so the number 9 car will be getting a penalty. That's Maximilian Vedi, and it will be 10 seconds that'll be added on either to his stop. And look at this, door to door. They touch once, they touch twice. I think they touched the 3rd time on the run into Bruxelles. Saristo's also got a 5-second time penalty. Then the Alpine driver, then in the number 9, who's got the 5-second penalty. So there is Vedi, who was in 9th place, in the number 89, having a great scrap, trying to go through, and very nearly found himself pointing out into the wall. There are the leading two once again, as you got Tatamali and also Luke Whitehead out there at this point in time. And one of the keys as they look to try and go on through is that Luke Whitehead, he has had the lead for the longest time. Erbrick, hello, Spears trying to go down the inside at campus. Not a traditional place to get it done, but one where he's trying.
One where he's trying, and it could extend into Stavolo as well. If not, it's going to be a loss of momentum, which we talked about. There is Van der Velde, who's going to try and take full advantage of that one. They're going to run side by side then on the run through Corba Paul Frere. Now on towards Blanchimont. Coming up right about now. They're running side by side. That battle for 5th place. Going their way through then. Harry Spears has got the inside line. Van der Velde around the outside. He will go, and he'll have the line then going in towards the chicane for this 11th time in this race, grabbing the inside line and taking away the position, then door-to-door battling, and that was a great effort there. But Van der Velde up into 5th place, Harry Spears down to 6th.
Pit window opens then. There is an extra 5 seconds on. Sorry, it's 10 seconds for Saristo. Yativ's got a drive-through penalty for his incident with the number 13 car. And look at that. They've changed for the race lead. So Tahamali has got through and has done exactly what he has needed to. He has got himself then up into the race lead, but only for the moment, because here comes Whitehead, and look at them serpentining. You'd think it's the Indy 500 at this stage, which should be taking itself on about 10 days from now. No chances either way for those battles then to end up in a bit of drama, but those drivers all keeping it together, and that gap again to Jack Noller, 3 seconds, who's quietly keeping himself in this race right now, number 36. There is Spears down in 6th. Suddenly, Samir Foch is back there again, looking for that chance to move up.
It really is. That's the battle for 6th place. But Mallet at the top really has to be careful about what he was doing down the Kemmel Straight. If he's doing it multiple times, moving left and right, he's trying to break the toe. But if he does that too many times, the stewards will be wanting to take a look at that. However, it's all in good fun at the moment as they make their way through the double gauche. We've got a 404, which is Hamada Akizi, had a penalty for a major incident. It was going to be a drive-through penalty, I do believe, that was going to be added to this race. But since he's retired from it, the penalty will be applied at his next race.
That will be a huge hurt, because not only do you have a retirement, but you've got a penalty looming over you for the next race out there. So we'll keep an eye out on that the more that things go on. A number of drivers in the pits: Leaf, Soames, Vela, Piermetz, Yativ and Otti all in the pits. We know that Yativ is maybe either taking his drive-through or taking his mandatory stop at this stage, and that will be a drive-through penalty served then for Itamar Yativ as he will go. But Spears right now, 7th position, classified at this moment in time on circuit, so a lot of work then that he'll be keeping his eyes on and that he'll have to do. There is Erbrick then in 4th place at this moment, trying to put everything together on the board, and you'll see drivers in green have made their stops on the timing tower. So this becomes a case of at what point do you want to make that decision and dive down in. Tahamali's going to come in, so is Luke Whitehead. Ashtois coming in at the same time. Jack Noller takes the race lead.
Yeah, and Jack Noller then will get to lead a lap here at Spa-Francorchamps. You saw as well, Jan-Niklas Erbrick, Tinko van der Velde, Harry Spears also all staying out, so they'll be taking their positions. Samir Foch right behind them, decided the pit, so too did Speth. So it's really interesting to see what the drivers are thinking, what's running through their minds at this stage in the race. It's a mandatory tyre change that the drivers have to have. They don't have to take on any fuel, but running in a race like this, you might take on a little bit to try and keep the car as light as possible. As there you can see, it's a very, very long way down the pit lane, then a long time being on 50 kilometers per hour. It seems like an age just to make it to the pit box. But that means then one of the longest pit lanes. Surely maybe an undercut may be your way forward. Fresher tyres for that stint, and you get to take a lot of time out of drivers who have stayed out there. But maybe that's why I'm in the commentary box, Jake.
Maybe that is the case, but at least for the moment, Jack Noller will be trying to make an overcut work then to bring himself a little bit closer in. Erbrick now up into 2nd, Van der Velde then to 3rd as they look to make those charges. Also into the pits, Jimmy Holm and Bourne as well is in the pits in the AMG Mercedes. So they've got their focus on. Erbrick's got his own mind sorted out right now. That McLaren is looking behind at one Tinko van der Velde, who will definitely want to be getting through A, S, A and P.
All of those combined, Van der Velde will need to realise as well that he can't afford to lose too much time. If he wants to try and get this done on Jan-Niklas Erbrick, it needs to be soon, but he's coming up to a part of the track where that's going to be very difficult. He's going to try it anyway going in towards Leifonia. He's got the inside line through the right-hander, slows it down so he can take the apex. What a lovely move that was from the Dutchman in the side Max Motorworks car. Tinko van der Velde now in 2nd place on the road. Of course, still yet to serve a mandatory stop, but a lovely, lovely move.
Oh, that's an incredible move, and you cannot execute that without confidence, and it takes confidence in Erbrick to not just send the car back to the inside and make contact. It takes confidence in the fact that you can slow down that Aston Martin, and it takes confidence that you've got the grip available to it as well as you make that charge back forward. So everything adding up together, looks like Tinko van der Velde has made a really good move of things then as they sort it out. But the focus now is going to be on who decides to make that stop and when. And I'd expect, yep, there goes the two drivers behind Tinko van der Velde to make that stop. So Jan-Nicolas Urbrik comes in, also Spears coming in, and Spears is really going to gain as they hit the line there. That was a little bit early from Jan-Nicolas Urbrik, and that's going to bring the group back in. Gershon Conchabo, by the way, he's got Polke for a bit of company at this stage, or did, because now Gershon Conchabo ends the battle by diving down into the pits.
At least for now, Jake. He's decided to get his pit stop down now. We are just past the halfway mark in this race. Of course, drivers will be taking their mandatory stops in this race. Of course, it's a mandatory tyre change. If you're just joining us, welcome along. Currently, it is Jack Noller in the lead of this race, but we still have the top 10 drivers still yet to make a stop. Of course, some of those are in the pit lane right about now. But the interesting thing will be, we've seen mandatory pit stops before, and it's interesting you pointed out that I believe you said Harry Spears really closed up on Jan-Nicolas Urbrik. Now, of course, the car has to stop for a pit lane speed limit line, and it's 50 kilometers per hour. It is such a slow pit lane speed limit. If you're even 1 kilometer an hour over that speed limit, even if you're 0.1, 0.2, you will get penalised, and it will be a drive-through penalty, but it won't be applied until you've left the pit lane exit. So it'll be interesting to see who will get caught out by that. In fact, it's a stop and go penalty because Chris Bourne has exactly that, and he'll have to serve that on top of the mandatory stop he's already made.
That's going to hurt even more for him, so he knows what he needs to do out there at this stage. We've also seen Oscar Saristo come in. He'll hold those 10 seconds in the lane for his stop. There is Simon Speth trying to make his charge. Really faded then with the tyres at the end of that stint, it seemed. Just didn't have the pace to keep things together out there on circuit. It can very easily be difficult. Now, I do want to point out that Malley and Whitehead have changed places. It was a 1.3 second gap for Whitehead that he was behind when they came out of the pits. All of a sudden, he's 7/10 of a second ahead.
Yeah, Luke Whitehead on a charge at the moment, making our way now down in towards Lecom, trying to pull out the gap between himself and Taha Mali as we make our way through once again. So currently the lead of those that have made a mandatory stop. It's still 4 drivers at the pointy end of the field, still yet to come in, and really it will be they have to pit this lap, because once the pit window is closed, you cannot enter the pits without receiving a penalty, because obviously you haven't made that mandatory stop. So at the moment then, it's all about Whitehead trying to make sure he gets as much at pace as he can, as there is Jack Noller coming into the pit lane then, and as you say, very, very long pit lane. It's a painful amount of time you're on the limiter there. But Chris Bourne also into the pits to serve his stop-and-go 30-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And looking at it, I do believe Harry Spears timed that to perfection and gained all that time in the pit lane because he didn't receive a penalty whatsoever. So he timed that perfectly.
Yep, so also in will be Vadi and Pulke. Both of those will be diving down into the pits then. That's the last available opportunity. There you can see some of the rubber build-up on the outside of the circuit then as they go through. And once again, it'll be Tatamali here who is going to try and close that down. Wiggle from Whitehead. They're going through Campus Corner. Just being a little bit too eager in that Audi to step on the power, and it's something that we note with Audis. They have a chronic issue when it comes to losing it, where the back end decides to go out. Now, this is the replay of how the move was done, which put one Mr. Whitehead up in front, and it looks to be on the outside, a form of slowdown penalty then that gifts the lead back over towards Whitehead.
Yeah, that looked like the case, didn't it? So that's Whitehead taking full advantage of that one, moving up a position. And you see Malley will be really frustrated at that one because he's straight back onto it, straight onto the back of Luke Whitehead. He's got to make that move all over again. Gerli Conchabo then has his mirrors filled with Sones in the back. Number 24 then, as they now make their way on the run in towards Blanchimont. And they approach that left-hander now, just really on each other, in each other's mirrors then, as they make their way on towards the chicane then. Conchabo defending hard then. Luke Whitehead still ahead of Malley then, heading over the top, as there you can see there's cars exiting the pit lane then. One of them will be Polke then, one of them will be Vedi as well, as they rejoin the action. But Luke Whitehead takes the lead of this race once again, once all the pit stops are complete. And you see then, that is Conchabo still having to defend from Sones behind, going in towards La Source.
Yep, so the work is there at this stage. Conchabo still having to look behind. Sones, of course, on that recovery drive after the big hit down there with Hamada Akizi and co as they make that charge. It is AMG Mercedes clean versus AMG Mercedes a little bit battered at this moment in time as they make that close. Pit is closed then at this stage, and look at that, leaving the pits. That's going to be a little bit awkward as they all pilot through. That will be, of course, the Finnish driver there that they go on by and try and work out where to be. So that is Polkey then, who will just be on the back of these drivers trying to work out a way through up into P14.
Yeah, and it's always quite fun to see them just sort of fall up and down the order there as they make their pit stops. It's a long pit lane, so it's always quite difficult to see where they're placed until they reach that first timing line of the lap. But Conchabo then in 14th place, it's Sones in 15th, and of course all the points are scored all the way down to 25th place in this series. So as long as you get to the line right about now, you should be in a good stead for a good point scoring position. Luke Whitehead making his way through in towards the right-hander of Stavolo, might find himself under a little bit of pressure here from Taha Mali as they get the power on.
Yep, Taha Mali is definitely there, and the gap behind, which of course was around 3 seconds, is 2.5 right now after the stop. So it's an overcut that's worked out then for Jack Noller, but Taha Mali has seen the move done before, and look at this, late on the brakes, trying to get that very nimble Ginetta to go through. Wide has gone Whitehead. We've got some side-by-side as Jimmy Holm is on the outside of Maximilian Vady, trying to get that one done, and can't quite call it complete just yet because Vady's got the inside line. We go picture-in-picture on the run towards turn number 1 here because it's not quite a chance to get the move done then for the race lead for the Ginetta of Taha Mali. And now you start to wonder here for Jimmy Holm. He's got to look behind because they've also got the very quick Leaf there behind, wanting to try and gain that place on the brakes. They go into the final chicane, and once more Jimmy Holm is having to play that defensive card and play it very shrewdly.
He will indeed, as Vady will try and find a way through, maybe to try and a little bit of a cutback, get the apex out of these slow corners and get onto the power earlier, therefore building up the speed quicker as they make their way through now in towards La Source. And yeah, you saw Whitehead there defending the lead, and I thought he was going to compromise his own run out of La Source, but he didn't. He holds on to the lead by just over half a second as the homing missile has Vady right behind him as they make their way descending through Eau Rouge and then up the hill through Radion as over that blind crest we go.
Yep, and it's that blind crest that we keep our focus on, and the charge once again towards the Lacoum section. And now here comes the move. Maximilian Vady right up underneath is that AMG Mercedes trying to unlock away on the outside to get it done, but Jimmy Holm covering off that inside, effectively doing his duty at that stage to make sure no overtake would happen, and no dice then in terms of that battle. It's the biggest battle out there for 11th, 12th and 13th, which is I would say the closest battle out there on the road, because you got the lead battle that is still going on, and still that patience being had here by Taha Mali against Luke Whitehead. It's a case of they'll know each other pretty well, they'll know how each other drives, and Taha Mali is trying to give absolutely everything in that Ginetta to get this as close as possible to a victory. I think it's going to be a timing thing.
It probably will be as we ride on board with Taha Mali as he makes his way now, following in the tow of Luke Whitehead through Blanchimont. They go. You saw a little bit of braking there from Luke Whitehead. Look at the momentum now that Mali has. He goes to the left-hand side of the track, then making their way on towards the chicane. Mali on the outside. Luke Whitehead has the inside line, but runs a little deep in towards the chicane, and he's gone for a half spin then and cedes the lead of this race then to Taha Mali. And Luke Whitehead just simply carrying too much speed in the first part of the chicane. The car fishtailed on him. He gathered it back up, but now Jack Noller's in the view of second place.
Might not actually be the end of the world there for Luke Whitehead. He now becomes a bridge for Jack Noller, and if Noller can get onto the back of Whitehead and stay with these drivers, then Whitehead's got a really good chance to sow a little bit of chaos against his own teammate here and say, Jack Noller's got nothing to lose. If we bring him into the fight, then we've got a real scrap on our hands here. We've still got 20 minutes to figure this all out. We're on our 15th lap then of this race, and I tell you what, we are not in guarantees at all at this moment in time, with Taha Mali leading by 1.2 seconds as they cross. Now here's Tomotti in his 3-car scrap right now. He's got Saristo then in the Alpine, along with Vela, of course, in the Porsche. So the only Alpine in the field looking to charge. Of course, yesterday we saw some Alpines in action over on R Factor 2, but here comes the look then. It's a very defensive line from Tom Otte, who moved all the way over because he knows he's got it covered into one. Well, he got it so far covered that he has gone to Narnia and back.
Yeah, he completely missed his braking point there, has to rejoin the circuit, and the Alpine of Saaristo will find his way through, says thank you very much. Dean Vella, meanwhile, flashing the lights because, well, he knows now if he can just apply a little bit of pressure to the car ahead of him, of Tom Otte, he might find his way through. He won't find his way through by cutting the curb like that one and lose a lot of momentum as they now head the way down the Kemmel Straight. Maybe an opportunity for Tom Otte to get into the slipstream here of Saaristo as they make their way on towards Lake On. Saaristo defends the inside line as Otte will try and defend the outside line. Bit of door-to-door between the two of them, and that might be Dean Vella's opportunity to try and find his way through. Bit scrappy between these three at the moment, but Dean Vella gets a position then on Tom Otte as they find their way through. A little bit scrappy between the three of them, but they're all facing the right way at the very least.
Well, that will be a positive, and it's one of the few positives a couple of drivers are going to be taking from that. Tom Otte had a lot of thinking to do there through that section of track, had two very important drivers behind, and ultimately drops the places. So just like that, you see where all the dramas come on into play. So that at least is a point in time. Jan-Niklas Erbrich, though, has got his mirrors plastered full of spears out there on circuit. So for Jan-Niklas Erbrich, he is going to be keeping himself very alert to that pale pink Aston Martin, which is looking for the inside once again. But again, that McLaren does just enough on the braking to keep everything nicely in line, as we got a little bit of side-by-side behind them as well. And that looks like it is going to be Chris Bourne in the exiled right foot braking R team car there at this stage. So he, I believe he found himself in pain when he was filling out his team sheet.
Well, it must have been. Must have been. That's the only reason why you would change a team name like that. However, he's still out there at the moment. Maybe his right foot, hopefully, isn't in too much agony at this point in the race. With 17 minutes and 46 seconds to go. There is Jan-Niklas Erbrich then in 5th place as he heads his way over Radion and on towards the Kemmel Straight we go. Harry Spears has dropped back a little bit there, still within 0.6 of a second as Saaristo trying to hang on then for the number 54 car of Dean Vella as they make their way towards the line and towards La Source again. Saaristo then looks like he's got the pace overall, but Dean Vella and Tom Otte are not going anywhere other than his rear view mirrors at this moment in time. They want that position back.
I'm pretty sure they will, but they'll have to wrestle it from him, and I'm sure that Saaristo will be trying everything possible to make sure that they don't find themselves in a scrap or a battle. It is also on, of course, for 10th, 11th and 12th positions as well out there on the circuit. So at least for now, you can see there is the Slovakian David Ohak, who will have himself Holm and Vady as a little bit of trouble, and this is for the last spot inside the top 10. So 1 point difference between all those places, but a top 10 finish is a bragging rights place.
It definitely is. You know, you'd have me bragging if I got top 10 against this talented field. David Ohak then, who's had a messy race at best. He's had a couple of incidents here and there. He's missed a braking zone or two, but at the moment he finds himself ahead of the homing missile of Jimmy Holm, who himself as well has fallen into trouble in this race. They're going to run side by side on the run up towards Leifonia. Then, oh, there's contact between the two of them. Jimmy Holm getting opposite lock with that contact. Somehow, though, he holds on and gains a position off the back of it. How on earth did he save that?
Well, you do have to realise that you have to execute a drift properly to get yourself a finished licence. So, in terms of driving, that would be nothing but second nature to Jimmy Holm.
I'll tell you what, that's a different interpretation of the Scandinavian flick. However, it has absolutely worked for the homing missile driver of Jimmy Holm. It might work too for Max Vady, who inherits that position off of David Ohak. A couple of corners ago, he was in 10th place, was Ohak. Now Vady is up into 11th place. Try and hold off against David Ohak as they make their way through in towards Blanchimont and on towards the chicane.
Yep, and it's that run to the chicane, which for Maximilian Vady, he'll be looking behind after making that move on Ohak and feeling like he's pretty much got that consolidated. So it's worked out quite nicely, at least at this point. It's back together again as well for 5th place, it seems, also. So there's a lot going on right now. Battles opening and closing everywhere you look out there on the circuit as Vady then has exactly what he wants, but Jimmy Holm now will need to try and run away. It's 5 seconds up to Sheldon Muscat. That's going to be a tall order in the last 15 minutes of this race. So that at least is going to be the work that he will have going on, and we'll catch a look at this on the replay. Look at this. Full on Tokyo Drift spec here in the Ardennes Forest.
You see that throttle control as well. He knew exactly what to do in that scenario. And better than that as well, he parked it on the next available apex. That is how you do it. Vady then will try and find a way past Jimmy Holm then as we make our way in towards the right-hander here of Lecom. Door-to-door action here, and Vady out of road there, has to take a little bit of a trip across the infield. And Jimmy Holm holds on to position now, but Vady again trying round the outside, but the two of them make contact. And now David Ohak will try and find his way through down in towards the inside of Purcell, and Vady there will not be too aggrieved about that one. He found himself on the rough edge of that battle.
He certainly did, and now the question will be, how will everyone look at that as they went on through? A couple positions being lost for the Troubles as they made that charge on through. So at least for the time being, those are the positions as effectively as it was with this battle, and it might just see a repeat performance then from Jimmy Holm and the Holming Missile Porsche as he gets a drive, a good drive I should mention as well, through their double Gauche over towards this one through. But then you look at Spears here in 6th position. It's going to be P5 soon if he can get a good drive against the McLaren of Jan-Nicolas Erbrick. He definitely wants that place and wants it soon.
Yeah, it's great to catch up to the car ahead, but Harry Spears has been behind Erbrick for quite some time now, for the last 10-15 minutes at the very least. Spears has tried to find a way through, hasn't found it yet, but he is hounding the back of that McLaren, maybe looking for a move this time in the inside of the chicane, just trying to make sure he puts Erbrick in a position where he feels he needs to defend, placing that car to try and find you know, that little bit of a gap in the armour of Erbrick's defence. But at the moment, Erbrick is holding firm then in towards La Source. They will go. Spears then might try and move down the inside again, making Erbrick think about to do something to defend the position, which compromises his line. And there you can see Erbrick staying firm, holding firm for 5th place. Harry Spears throwing everything at this, and so far Erbrick has an answer for everything. Meanwhile, we've got to switch a position here. That's Pirmitz trying to go up the inside of Polke going in towards the chicane. Polke's able to hold on, but in theory you'll see Pirmitz get the better run out of the final chicane, but Polke holds on for now.
He does, and it's also closing for 2nd because Whitehead's being caught by Nola. Polke then just about covers it all off then into turn 1. A lot more confidence through that section of track. Vady then taking the climb up the hill will be looking to attack Jimmy Holm now. So it's been a case of defence to attack to defence again. And that will be the AMG Mercedes proving its might on the outside. We know that Porsche's pretty rapid, but with that draft help, that AMG Mercedes is doing a good enough job to stay alongside. Needs to be good, and they're going to come together again as they go through. But this time, Vady's going to stick the throttle down and keep himself and give himself the place. So a great scrap between those drivers out there for 11th and 12th position. It sees Vady go through, but I want to focus on the battles 2nd and 3rd all of a sudden, because Whitehead, I think, has gone into defence mode at this stage with Mali going through. We've got the 54 car in the wall up after Radion. So yeah, that is Vela.
Yeah, Dean Vella around there, but there you can see Jan-Nicolas Erbrick having to work hard to defend that position. Harry Spears, though, gets the move done as we hand back to the battle for 2nd.
Yep, so that battle for 2nd, you can see Nola's got the move done on Whitehead. Great work on that move, and he's got the place. So a wonderful bit of battling there, and that puts Jack Nola now on focus. But you can see how much time it's actually cost him to go out there and make that move. The gap was 2 seconds as they went on through, and I'm sure that gap now for Jack Nola will be a very tough close down against that Ginetta. 2.4 to chase.
Yeah, but at the moment then, Jack Nola with 10 minutes to go. Can he build a gap to Luke Whitehead? Because this is going to be the main thing. This will decide whether he can go on to try and challenge for this race win. If he has to defend from Luke Whitehead, which it looks like he might have to on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion, it might mean that he has a dent in those win chances. However, he's got one heck of a driver to try and defend against Luke Whitehead as they now charge their way through Eau Rouge and Radion now. Who will get the better drive? It looks like it's Jack Noller for now, but it will be Luke Whitehead who has that little bit of toe then. Jack Noller pulling to the right-hand side of the track to just try and break the toe wherever possible. He'll try and move back to the racing line as late as possible as well to make sure he gets the good run in towards the Les Combes section there, on towards Malmedy. So Jack Noller just trying to drive the widest Porsche Spa-Francorchamps has ever seen. Dean Vella, though, we saw him have a little bit of a yellow flag incident at Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's see what that was about.
Well, he got the move done on Saristo in the Alpine, and there you can see he gets grass and he gets wall. Oh my goodness me, that would have been a very scary moment, and of course that is a big hit into those tyres up there, so that is very much not ideal as they make those charges forward. And now you can see as they go through the next left here, these drivers second and third, that's a wiggle for Jack Noller as he's trying everything to go on forward, and that, at least for the time being, is going to stay as is for the moment. But I think Whitehead now is doing two things. One, he wants second, but secondly, you'd say with 9 minutes to go, he's making sure that Noller can't get first.
Yes, that's a lot of first, thirds and seconds you said there, Jake, that's for sure. But yes, all of those are absolutely true. Meanwhile, then, the 777 of Jimmy Holm is going to pick up a 5-second penalty for avoidable contact on the number 89 car of Vady. So that's going to be added to the end of his race. Silver Pyramids, meanwhile, has his mirrors filled of Teemu Pulkki.
Yeah, and Pulkki as well will be looking for his battles, but Noller just doing enough. Look how much time they've actually lost. They've lost a whole second over that middle sector here to Tata Mali, and it looks like, at least at this moment in time, Mali is starting to walk away with this race in the late stages here of this one. So that, at least for the time being, is the focus that they will be very much on. And for now, that gap does come back down to 2.3, so a weird timing issue there as we went on through, but they still have to be alert and focused in the final stages of this race. One small mistake from any of these drivers, that's it. That's day done. And the last thing you want to do is put in 55, 56, 58 minutes of effort and see the race fall away.
Yeah, you're just going to make sure, as you said, you've got to guard against complacency. You can't afford to be taking those lines slightly differently, as there you can see Jack Noller taking a line slightly differently. Over Radion he will go, and it's little mistakes like that, little lapses of concentration like that, that the driver behind will absolutely latch onto. There's nothing more that a driver will react more to than you making a mistake.
Oh, absolutely. And there is Silver Pyramids still scrapping it out with Teemu Pulkki. These two have been changing positions all race long, and again trying to open up that attack. They are bringing another driver in behind. That will be the lap down Mercieka that they will be dealing with as well. So here is the run that they will go for over towards turn one again. The Lassal's hairpin, nothing doing just yet. But really, two Aston Martins, one with damage, one with not. You'd say from the start of the race, Pulkki had a clean car, he wouldn't be worrying about this battle.
No, but it's just funny how things can change in the 53 minutes we've already had of this race. We still have 7 to go then. Silver Pyramids holding on to 16th place. Teemu Pulkki will try and make his life difficult then, going down the Kemmel Straight once again. Might have a little bit of a toe as well. The car behind them is not for position as they make their way now on towards that Kemmel Straight, trying to pick out their braking zone. And just for now, Pulkki has to hold position so far going into there, but as long as he's filling the rear views of Silver Pyramids, just try and make the other driver make a mistake at this point, because as you say, Pulkki could be driving a little bit of a wounded car.
Certainly could do, and he is searching for that move, and he wants to try and move on by, but Silver Pyramids is having absolutely none of it in an Inco racing car, so there is not much that you can really argue against in this battle. It will continue all the way to the checkered flag with about 6 minutes to go here in this race, and they know that they are at the mercy as well here in this one of the leaders, and when they actually get their chance to cross the start-finish line, and by leaders, Taha Mali out there in front. So those gaps opening up then just a little bit then in the field, 3 or 4 seconds gaps splitting most of the drivers, but Pyramids really having to be very alert to every single corner here thanks to the work being done by Teemu Pulkki.
Yeah, and this is what we saw earlier on in this battle for second place or maybe even for the lead, you're trying to make sure you take a slightly different line. Just try and maybe stick a nose up the inside, stick a splitter up the inside, and just try and put the driver, make them think about defending, because once they start to defend, they're going to compromise their own line. If you can make a driver do that, you're odds on for that position. So that's exactly what Polke's doing. He's making Silver Pyramids think about defending, which instantly compromises his own line.
Yeah, and that's the key. The fact that they're compromising each other, Polke's got to try and work out a way to really attack, because you can see again as he goes incredibly deep into the corner searching for it, and he's not going to get it. Jimmy Holmes got 5 seconds, and there's the hit. Bang, and around you go. And that's going to be a very awkward one for Silver Pyramids, who tries to reverse. Watch out, Soristo. Just about gets away with that one. That could have been a dangerous rejoin at that point in time. Not sure where Pyramids could have gone there, but that's how easily you can run into troubles around this place now. Of course, Jimmy Holm has that 5-second penalty after his incident with Vady for that avoidable incident. So Holm will have that added on at the end of his race, which will put him maybe with this driver here, Gergely Konshabo, who will now know there's a 5-second penalty in front, and he'll get the hurry-up message, I've got to move.
He has got to move, but he's got Soanes behind him as well in the number 24 car, and it's all well and good trying to make sure you press on and try and negate the penalty that Jimmy Holm has, take advantage of it, I should say. But it's an entirely different story when you've got Soanes right behind you, and we all know that battling equals time lost. And for Konshabo, this is exactly the opposite of what he wanted. Running aboard there with Jordan Soanes, as this will be the battle for 14th place, as I see a drive-through penalty for David Ohak. Now my suspicion is instantly track limits. That's
what I'm keeping an eye out on there, because we haven't seen anything come through with the race stewarding team. Of course, there are the penalties that come through. Oh, hello, Soanes. Indeed, for the team, as he gets a full bit of opposite lock, trying to keep that Mercedes pointed in a straight line. That was cutting the inside curb at Double Gauche too much on the inside.
Yeah, and that can really upset the car. We just saw that with Jordan Soanes, how upset the car does get if you take that inside curb. There's a real weight transfer when you do that, because the car's leading right, and you're deciding to take a little bit of weight off the left-hand side of the car, applying even more pressure to the right-hand side. The rear tyres, simply put, just do not like it.
No, they absolutely do not. And Jordan Soanes finding out the hard way when probably he would have scared himself into correcting the car. So that's how quickly it goes, and it ebbs and it flows. Worth noticing that battle for second and third, Jack Noller has checked away from Luke Whitehead. That gap now 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, really trying to pull away now. Jordan Soanes here, meanwhile, on the back of Konshabo, making his way through in towards the chicane. Can both drivers slow it down in time? Well, yeah, you can see there Konshabo running deep into the first part of the chicane. Jordan Soanes will go round the outside then, and in theory, he'll have the better line door to door. Then they go towards the line. This is the battle for what is right now 13th place, according to the timing screens, as they make their way now down in towards La Source hairpin. Soanes on the inside, making our way through then, very close to the wall, but I tell you what, he's got the move done then, moving up a position and ahead of Gergely Konshabo.
Yep, and I'm just getting word that Timo Polke is going to get a 10-second time penalty for causing an avoidable collision, so that's not going to be good at all, as he had just made the move through on Pyramids, and he's through Soristo as well, but now you got this going on. There is Konshabo trying to fight this one back against Soanes. Remember, Soanes has the damage, so that AMG Mercedes on the outside is going to be a little bit quicker in a straight line in towards that next right, but Lecombe, he can't get it done up the hill, so Soanes has sewn it up and moved himself up exactly where he is needed to with that move, and it's going to be close here as well here for the line to see whether it's going to be this lap or next lap.
Yeah, and it's really at the mercy of our race leader in Taha Mali. I think it is going to be one further lap. Yeah, it's definitely going to be. He's not going to, because the only other thing would be to lift off, but he's only got a 2-second gap to the car behind. So let's have a look at David Ohak then. Let's see what's going on here then in towards the chicane. So he's now exiting. Oh, he's coming into the pits. So he is just serving the drive-through. Oh, no.
Austin Powers.
That is a true Austin Powers moment right there. And yeah, I think we've cut away from his embarrassment there, or we're just going to keep on watching it. But yeah, no, that's a true Austin Powers moment. I dread to think how long that took to get him out of that, but we're on to the final lap of this race.
Well, thank goodness he didn't have a forklift and he had a GT4 to work with, because he's got a better turning circle to play with that. But there is Taha Mali out there in front, 2.7 seconds. The battle's still on for 13th between Jordan Soanes in the AMG Mercedes, and then you've got, of course, behind trying to stay in play there, Gergely Kunshabo there in the number 11 in terms of that battle. So at least for the moment, sorry, I'm going to correct myself. It looks like there's a few issues with the timing as they go through and try and work out where they are. But at least for the moment, there is Oscar Soristo then in that 15th position, having a pretty solid drive, despite the penalty he had to serve at the pit stop after the hit. But up the hill then, through these next lefts and rights, Taha Mali has done everything he's needed to so far in that Ginetta. He knew behind that he had Luke Whitehead for company in the majority of this race. He had one moment where it didn't work. He had to step off of it, had to let through Luke Whitehead, but he had to battle back to gain that position again. And that Ginetta has really looked like it's wanted to be aggressive all race long. There's only one other driver in the field with a Ginetta. That's Kirsten Beha, we haven't talked about today. He's down in 19th position. Jack Noller's done everything to try and close the gap down all race long, but hasn't been able to do too much about it. There is a Beha out there on circuit, piloting all on his own in effective island racing mode at this stage. Couple of cars behind that will not be there to catch come at the end. But there is Mali making his way towards the final sector. As you can see on the track map, the red dot indicates where we are looking at this stage, and through into the campus corner. He's just got to put it all together right now on this final sector. He would have done this many a time before in many a different vehicle, and he has proven today that this is not going to be the Luke Whitehead show. This is not going to be plain sailing for everyone. You can make battles over the course of this hour, and he had to make it work when he knew that Whitehead behind had to battle with Jack Noller. He built his gap, he walked away, and he is going to be proving that in this AMD GT4 Championship that he is now the benchmark to beat as he makes his way through the final chicane. Taha Mali will take the drive to the line and will take a confident race victory here at Spa-Francorchamps for the season opener.
Yeah, fantastic performance there from Taha Mali. It's Jack Noller in second place, Luke Whitehead rounding off our podium, and our podium separated by around 4 seconds there. Great to see from the front three. Tinko van der Velde then coming home in fourth place, an eventful race for him. Fourth place will be an absolute steal for him. He's had a really good recovery drive there. Harry Spears should cross the line in fifth place. They're not far behind him, should be Jan-Niklas Erbrich, and a great formation between our top three drivers. They've put on a fantastic show here tonight.
They absolutely have, those three up at the front, and then in fourth position battling through, of course, Tinko van der Velde did a really good job. Actually stayed quite close, 8.5 seconds to Luke Whitehead at the end. Definitely no slouch after what was a very, very important middle sector of the race that didn't quite go his way. But you can see all those times are to be added on at the end for the likes of Holm, for the likes of Polke. Ohak, of course, is just staying there in the pits. His race over in 23rd, but he should still score 3 championship points then, as he will not make it towards the start-finish line. But what an important finish then, as we will be seeing the last of the drivers then making their drive over towards the line. And the last car over the line will be the number 4 of Itamar Yativ out there, who's been driving all on his own for the majority of this race. But Kieran, you have to go out there and say that it was an inspired race by Taha Mali. He did everything that he needed to and a little bit more. And the big key now moving forward is, what do you do to build momentum after an important round 1 victory?
Well, take the lessons you've learned from Spa and apply them exactly to Alton Park when we head there next time around on the 27th of May in 2 weeks' time. But I've got to say, Taha Mali Whitehead took the position away from him after the pit window, but other than that, it looked pretty smooth sailing for Taha Mali. Great battle between himself and Luke Whitehead, and Jack Noller from 4th place, I believe it was, managing to get up to 2nd place. That is an astonishing drive then from Jack Noller. Really well-deserved finish then, and played his cards right as well, getting past Luke Whitehead, getting into 2nd place. He had a fantastic race here tonight as well.
He certainly did, and now we find ourselves in the position where our focus now will very much turn to these drivers, and hopefully a couple interviews coming up in a not too distant future. Of course, a lot of work has been put in on the mix, and we've been keeping our eyes on that. But let's just cast our minds to where we are going next time out. It will be Oulton Park. It is a much different circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, we're not in the Ardennes Forest. We're on the outskirts of Liverpool for that. But of course, Oulton Park, a very different characteristic of circuit, Kieran, when it's very, very tight and very, very twisty.
It really is, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the drivers handle it. Well, we've got Spa-Francorchamps, which is, very wide in comparison. It's still got that little bit of undulation, but it's a totally different beast, Oulton Park. As you said, very narrow, limited overtaking opportunities. Qualifying is going to be one of the most critical sessions of the entire season at Oulton Park. Can't wait to see how the drivers handle it there.
Of course, the only place you can find that handling is with us here at World Pro Racing, be it where you are watching us right now. Is it YouTube? Is it Facebook Live? Is it Twitch? Or have you been watching us, of course, on motorsport.tv? Have you been watching us, of course, with ESTV, the Esports Television Network, and with TVM Sport as well? We are going to get drivers, though, in for interviews. The driver who's come home in third position joins us now. That is Luke Whitehead. Luke, qualifying at least seemed to go a way for you that you can be incredibly happy about, but it looked like everything else that followed from that was just that slow descent into a little bit of trouble in that Audi. Third position overall. It's a podium, you take them, but still, chances maybe you'd feel left on the table?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying was a bit of a shock, to be honest. I knew that this car, I decided to go with a bit of an underdog, because obviously I don't race in GT4 very often. So I just thought, you know what, as a bit of fun, I'll go with something different. And, that's quite evident, there's only 2 Audis on the grid. So, I knew it was going to be quite a tough slog against, the Porsches, the Astons and McLarens. And, the Ginetta is quite strong, very, 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 very strong with Taha in the middle sector. I think he's like 5/10 a lap quicker than me through just the middle sector. So I knew it was going to be tough. I just didn't expect it to be that tough. Quali was a shock, as I say, and I pulled out a good lap, and I knew the pace was there, but the race pace was just not good enough. It was good for I think about 3-4 laps, and then those other guys just kept their tyres a lot better. And the tyres for me just dropped off the cliff. So, and that coupled that with the brakes not being too great, is bus stop just to half spin is pretty frustrating. Given that I was in the lead at that point, but it's a good result, and I'm happy with how I performed. I don't think I could have done much more.
Well, the frustrations are clearly there, of course. You're the sort of driver who wants to go out there and win every race, and we both understand that, you're not going to get everything your own way when it comes to racing, but at least you've got a points all on the table. The spin could have been a lot worse. You could have had damage or something else to that intent. So Oulton Park, is this going to be a really important week for you, Luke, in terms of figuring out the setup, figuring out maybe some flaky brakes, figuring out maybe the issues with the tyre life?
Well, I think Oulton's going to be hard as well. I mean, this car kind of puts all its eggs in one basket in terms of it's a rocket down the straights, and it doesn't do corners very well, and Oulton is just corners. Hopefully my tyres won't die too much, because obviously it's a relatively low speed track, whereas Spa is quite a high speed track. But yeah, I mean, I think Oulton Park's going to be a bit of damage limitation for me. But as you say, it's great to get some points on the board, and well done to Taha and to Jack. Those two were just too fast for me today, and I think, if I'm honest, I was saved a little bit by the incident at the start with the guys behind. I think if that hadn't happened, the complexion of the race for me would have been very different. But, you've got to take what you get, and I got third place, and yeah, I couldn't be much happier.
Well, the floor is yours here, Luke. Shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you here today? Third place finish here tonight.
First off, well done to the 2 podium sitters once again. They drove a brilliant race. I couldn't match them really, which is quite frustrating from my perspective, but it is what it is. There's always the next one. Thank you very much to My dad, my mum. My mum's watching in hospital once again after her operation. You know, my thoughts always go out to her. She's had a really tough time, bless her, and I wish her all the best, and I hope all you guys do as well. So, yeah, it's been good. Thank you as well to my manager once again, Robert Wotherston. He's been pointing me in the right direction. You know, obviously giving me advice with how to deal with the disappointments such as today. Teaching me the psychology, of racing and what decisions to make as well, with obviously car choice, etc., etc. And thanks to everyone who tuned in to watch today. I hope it was a good race. I think from my perspective, it was certainly very exciting. Hopefully, it was the same from all of you watching.
There you have it, Luke Whitehead, third position overall. And Kieran, I believe that you've managed to find our race winner, Taha Mali.
I have indeed, and Taha, can you hear us?
I believe we have the server mute on at the moment.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can definitely hear you. Taha, well done. Well done on the race win for you there. Great battle between yourself and Luke Whitehead. You both had the rub of the green, but you came out on top. Talk to us about that race, because it looked like a fantastic battle between yourself and Luke.
Yeah, it was tricky from the first lap because simply my teammate had a bit of internet issue, so I had to avoid him at some point. So I think it was not you couldn't see it from the stream, but from my side it was like horrible in the first lap. And I will tell you something, that I had 3 off tracks by the end of the first lap. 3 off tracks by the end of the first lap, and my teammate didn't made my life easy for the 1 hour race. So I was sometimes a bit conservative. So it was like, as I said to you, it was a horrible race, but in the end it was like a really good result. And I honestly, when I saw the practice time, and I was shocked. I said that I picked the wrong car, but as soon as by the end of the first stint, I just realized that even I'm using a really aggressive setup, I'm really kind on the tires, so I can save tire more, and the Audi is like using more and more tires. So and at some point at the middle of the race, I just saw that the Porsche started to push, and I was saying to myself that I should push and I do something to overtake Luke, which is not really easy. I had so much speed, and I was using. I knew if he had like 1 second gap, he could pull away easily. So I was trying to not let him breathe for the first stint, and for the second stint he overtook me back for the simple reason that I went off track. I pushed the brake too much to avoid the penalty, because I didn't have no margin for error. So. Yeah, it was really tricky race, and also the last, I will say, 6 or 7 laps, the Porsche was really coming fast, and I was trying to use the strong point of the Ginetta. So which was, for me, the car was a bit gamble. I like it. It's really old car, but it can do the job really well. So I think it should be strong also in the next 2 races. So I hope I can like have some nice battle like today.
Yes, and of course, focusing now on Alton Park, how do you think you're going to get on, and how do you think the Ginetta will perform? Do you think you've got a similar performance in line as you had today?
Honestly, they have no chance.
That's not very encouraging.
They have absolutely no chance. But I don't know. I'm just kidding. I will do my best. If I find the sweet spot for the setup, I think I will have a strong car. Otherwise, I will try to grab the maximum of points.
Well, Taha, congratulations on your win today. The floor is yours for any shout-outs, any sponsors you'd like to thank.
Yeah, it's my team, especially H3 Racing. So it's my first time racing here in WPR. I was trying to do it in the other leagues with you. I mean, but with time and the time zone difference, because I'm living in Canada. So it's like time zone difference is a bit like big, so I couldn't race with you in the name of H3, but this time I could manage to race, so I'm really happy. And as I said, thanks to my team, they trust me, they help me to be able to perform like that. So I really enjoy it, and thank you for the top 3 drivers, and for the whole grid, and for you, of course.
Well, it's been great to talk to you, Taha. Thank you so much for taking the time out to have a chat with us. Congratulations on your win. 35 points coming your way. Well done.
Thank you, thank you.
And I believe Jake is now with our second place driver in Jack Noller.
I certainly am, and Jack, that will certainly be an interesting listen to there over that last interview, hearing that you've not got a chance next week, but we'll focus on this week because it seemed like in that second half of the race you were really starting to dial into that Porsche, you're really bringing those gaps back down in, and then you got that chance to move up into second. It seemed every time we were looking at you during that race, Jack, that you were getting more and more confidence with the car, and the race was just getting better and better for you.
Complete sense, being as I started practice 20 minutes before the race weekend, getting back after my last exam from uni. So yeah, definitely getting more and more confident with the car during the race. Qualifying nearly was on pole, but I messed up the last sector there. There was a bit of a gap created at the start, where after an incident between me and Harry, which is a shame, but managed to keep the car together and slowly pull that gap back together and managed to gain some time over the stops and just ran out of time at the end. But fortunately got past Luke when he, again, I imagine he had 3 off tracks because he went off and hit the brakes, so I managed to squeeze past there. What's been a really interesting dynamic over this race was the Audi was fast in the first sector, the Ginetta was fast in the second sector, and me and the Porsche was fast in the third sector, so it would ebb and flow the entire lap. So it was really interesting to drive and just run out of time to catch at the end.
Let's turn our attention then to Alton Park. It's no secret that this is going to be a very much Ginetta favouring circuit, which will be coming up next, mainly because it's so good in the tight and twisty corners. But you still have those opportunities in the Porsche. A lot of drivers have gone to the Porsche overall. So is this a case for you, looking at this championship, Jack, that you're maybe prioritising Kyalami and Mazzano over the likes of, say, Alton Park?
Alton Park's interesting because let's see if he can get the Ginetta high enough to get over the curbs to generate lap time. If he's going to be all confident, I can be all confident to see if he can get that over the curbs without losing the downforce in the car. So I have an idea of how I might be able to do that in the Porsche. Just need to ask around, but got a bit more time now. Exams are over, so we'll see. Maybe get the win next time.
Well, the focus is certainly there. The time now is available, which will be a little bit of a cause of concern for those around. But shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank then, Jack, for getting it done today for the RPM Omega GT Esports team.
Yeah, again, thanks again to GT Omega RPM, along with all of our sponsors at GT Omega, HyperX, Gaming Malta, and yourselves at World Pro Racing. It's great to be back in the series, and yeah, parents watching as usual. And again, thoughts go out to Luke's mum and Sheldon's dad, who's just had stuff cleared. So both of them, thoughts go out to, and I'll see you all tomorrow.
Well, of course, I've just said that team name completely backwards. But Jack Noller has done a wonderful job there to pick up second position overall. Kieran, it's Alton Park next time we are racing. The focus is very much going to be on how do you maximise lap time on a track which is notoriously difficult to get passes done.
Yes, qualifying is going to be one of the most critical qualifyings in the entire season, with the track so narrow and overtaking opportunities so limited. We've heard what the drivers think about Alton Park going in towards the next in the next 2 weeks, I should say. Want it to be next week already. Can we do it again right now, I wonder? No, we're going to have to wait, unfortunately. But you want to park yourself in front of the screens when we head to Alton later on in the month, because it's not one you'll want to miss.
Absolutely. The only place you can catch it is with us here at World Pro Racing. If you haven't had the chance already, you can like, you can share and subscribe. You've been watching all of the action here today on YouTube, Facebook Live and on Twitch, as well as ESTV, the Esports Television Network, on TVM Sport and on motorsport.tv on top of that. Massive thanks has to go to the team getting it done behind the scenes, from Adrian Fagayo and George Muscat, who have been the stewarding team FIA accredited stewards that they are. On top of all of that that's been going on through, we've had Justin and Nathan Mifsud on cameras, keeping everything nicely closed and caught together with all of the action here. From one Mr. Kieran McGinley, myself, Jake Sperry, it is Taha Mali who puts the first real mark on the board. It was a track which was a case of 3/3, I think, for a number of the drivers in this race, and everyone was keeping their eyes very much peeled on what they need to do to make the hour work for them. But Oulton Park is a completely different challenge. Some feel they don't have a chance, or the others don't have a chance. Some feel that they've got time to spare in the bank, but others will be looking to try and find a little bit more to move themselves up forward. We'll see you all, of course, 2 weeks from now with action at Oulton Park.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.